Good morning, friends and sewing machine heroes. I'm sitting here in my really messy sewing room, which I don't get a lot of time in here, but this is my safe space and my thinking space. And unfortunately, we are recovering from COVID. Most of us that went to H&H last week, I think, came home with COVID. We tested positive on Monday, and I'm the worst of the three of us. Thankfully, Aaron's the least affected. Paul's doing pretty good. I'm a little slow on the recovery. So I apologize for the mess you get this morning and my condition, but today is a really important day for me, for I think our quilting culture too. But this is especially personal to me because the Quilters Doc or the Quilters Documentary by Jennifer McShane is releasing today on Netflix. For a documentary like this to get picked up by a major distributor is such a big deal. Um, for most of you that know me, know that I have a history and experience with the justice system here in the United States, and this has always been, I guess, my side project is taking my bad experience and trying to turn it into something good, which means educating people about the system, trying to affect small changes everywhere, bring humans to light, and figure out how we can make the system more effective and actually help people. So this documentary, for me to have something like this in my world is very uh it's such an interesting place to be. So I there's been a lot of emotion around this for me, but I'm excited that has come into the quilting community because as I saw in the room last week when we watched the premiere of it at H&H, that was a whole room full of people that were invested in being open-minded and considering the the impact on quilting outside of ourselves. And I'm used to the backlash on this. The hard part for me is I've been there. I've been behind bars. I've served 2 years in Georgia in a state prison. And for when you do an experience like that, you can't unsee or unlearn the things that you learn there. And I know these people committed crimes. I don't excuse anyone's crime, but everyone owned their crime. Everyone owned their mistakes. And when you're online, it's been really nice in the quilting world to see a little bit more receptive feedback and some softening of what we think about people behind bars. So I feel like this is almost like a small protected bubble. So on a side note, for those of you that are still hesitant, I'm going to pull from probably one of my most therapeutic shows ever, which is Ted Lasso. Paul and I are on our seventh watch of Ted Lasso because that is our therapy. And one of the lessons that pulled me into Ted Lasso was to be curious. And I hope that this is the approach that you will take when you're considering this documentary is to be curious. Let's be curious about what happens if we soften how we feel about humans behind bars. When we really look at why people are behind bars, why they're not any different when they come out. Why are we just trying to punish and not fix anything? So please soften just a little bit. But also for those of you that are very frustrated, and I do understand that this was a documentary made about men, I do believe that in the prison world, first of all, men are more affected because there are more men in prison than women. But also, I think when a producer or filmmaker goes out to make this type of film, it is very difficult to find avenues of entry into a system. These systems are very protected because I don't want to get too political, but there's money involved. There are a lot of people that are affected when changes come to the prison. And I don't mean for the inmates, I mean for people running prisons and people that have investments in prisons and people that profit off of prisons. So for someone to let a filmmaker in and expose any of these things, it's very difficult for a filmmaker to get into a facility to make these movies. So I don't know. Jennifer had not said in her Q&A if there was a specific reason why she chose men. When we have her on, this is something I would like to ask her, but my guess is that it's probably very difficult to get into any facility. So keep that in mind, but also I hope we can look beyond the part and take it for what it is, and we can watch the healing journey of what quilts can do. I've been doing a lecture for years for quilt guilds called Quilts That Change Lives, and the whole lecture is about these types of programs that happen behind bars. Whether we like it or not, the majority of them are for men right now. The way that we change this is that we collectively affect change. I'll talk about that more in a minute. The other side to this that's hard for me is that I've been reading so much in the quilt world about this documentary and seeing the feedback and seeing how many people were so excited about this documentary that there were hundreds of posts about it in the young and millennials group on Facebook. And people were actually frustrated that they were seeing multiple posts every day, whereas for me I was very excited to see this many people were interested to see this documentary. So when a news article from another city, not in a quilt community, rolls across my feed and I'm dumb enough to go and look at the comments, it does take me right back to what I feel like has been my battle for 20 years, and just the overwhelmingly large population of people that really feel like we should just lock people up, throw away the key, and be done with it. Where people don't feel that these documentaries should be made to glorify people behind bars. I hope that none of you have that takeaway, that when you watch this documentary, that anything is being glorified. These are real humans with real experiences, and it's easy to assume things if you've not been in that position. So I don't want to take away in any way, shape, or form from what's happening today with this big release of this film. So we've had tons of requests, well, I have, from people that have known me speaking about my experience for years, wanting to do some type of kind of an ask me anything or Q&A about prison life or jail or anything about the process. And this is something that has been hard for me to sign on to because it is very vulnerable, but I also had committed to myself years ago, probably before I even left prison, that the only way to turn such a negative experience into something positive is to do my best to educate people on what the realities of incarceration look like, how it affects people mentally, how it affects families, and see that the damage goes beyond just punishing someone for their crime. So I would really like to give some time, both for me to get over COVID and for this documentary to kind of set in. And we will be offering a series of events that's kind of like an ask me anything. I already have received so many emails from so many kind people across the country saying that they thought of me when they saw that this documentary was coming out, and sent questions already of like, can you tell me more about this aspect of prison life? But I also, as we were sitting in that room watching the documentary, once everything was over and we were kind of dispersing, I can't count how many conversations I ended up with, people asking, okay, but there's this aspect of the documentary. Can you tell us about that? So, because it was so relatable. So we will have some events and things coming, but I want to give this documentary its moment and really hold it up and give Jennifer McShane a huge thank you for taking an interest in this topic. For those of you that aren't familiar yet, the producer and director have a couple other films that are out there. I will post them in my description, and I highly recommend viewing them. I think you might have to pay to see them. Excuse me. One of them is about mothers that are incarcerated trying to continue parenting their children, which I think is very powerful and a very big topic that needs to be highlighted in our communities and our in the prison system. And then she also has one about resource officers, more or less. So I highly recommend checking those out. Thank you for putting up with me today as we get over this COVID mess. But um, let's just say I'm motivated more than ever. I've already volunteered with Jennifer to help. There is going to be an outpouring of support, which makes my little quilter heart so overwhelmingly happy, where people are going to want to do donations to these programs, start new programs, and do everything we can. And I do believe in high numbers of people working together. I feel like it's been a one-person show trying to make these changes myself, but now with an entire community and portion of the population that might be invested, I think we can affect major change. I'm working with Jennifer to visit quilt guilds and speak, as I always have. I'm helping her to I would like to help her to organize these events and have a streamlined way of making sure the right materials get there. It opens up so many more cans of worms because now we have people asking, how can we make sure that they have sewing machines? How can we make sure that sewing machines are maintained? And as fast as the questions are coming, I think that there's power in numbers and we will find the answers to all of them. So thank you all for being on this journey with me and letting this door open a little bit at a time so that we can collectively make some changes. And I'm really, really grateful for you to be on this journey with me.